Hi, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute, and so I think it's time that I share my author origin story with you because I don't just write music anymore. So let's start at the beginning, because this is YouTube. We can do long form content here, and I'm feeling some long form content because this is not easy to put into a bite-sized TikTok video. So at least not without leaving out some very interesting details. So let's get started. We'll go way back to the year 20, not even 20. We'll go way back to 2009. Maybe even 2008, really. I had the idea for a book, and it was after reading one of my favorite books, and I used to read a lot, and recently I started reading a lot again, but there was quite a span of time there in the middle where I didn't read as much as I used to or as much as I wanted to. But this particular book really got me thinking again, and I had this idea and I thought, wow, what a great concept for a book. But in 2008, as you know, if you watched my videos, I was not thinking about being an author. I was very much doing music, writing music, performing, and getting ready to move to LA to continue doing music. So the idea was there in the back of my head, and I pretty much forgot about it. So now you're pretty caught up on everything that's been going on in my life up to about 2018-ish. So I took a break from doing music. I've been doing music for more than a decade at this point, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing anymore. So took a break in 2018, got married, traveled, and thought that 2020 would be the year that I would go back to music after taking the second half of 2018 off, most of 2019 off, but I still felt creative. I just didn't know what that was going to look like. And this makes it sound a lot less intense than it was to live it at the time. At the time, it felt like an identity crisis. It was tough, and I was struggling because music is how I had defined myself and my personality forever. And if I wasn't going to do music anymore, I didn't really know who I was. So spring of 2020, thinking about starting to write again, get ready to release some music, and then COVID happened, and I couldn't go out and play music. I didn't really feel like writing with people. I didn't know what was going on in the world, so I didn't feel inspired to create music, and I couldn't even bring myself to do it without being inspired, which sometimes, if that's your profession, you have to work through the periods when you don't feel so creative. I couldn't even get myself to do that. So the year went on, there was a lot of uncertainty, and I started reading again. And I forgot how much I loved reading and how much I had these places that I had created in my mind that I loved to visit and had never really done anything with. And the winter of 2020 turned into the early spring of 2021, and I had just finished reading a book that was very similar to one of my favorite books from 2008. And I thought, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start writing down this idea that I have. And so I began, and I didn't tell anybody what I was doing because I wasn't sure if I was gonna see it through, and I didn't really want to talk about it until I knew what exactly I was doing, because I don't know that I really started out to write a book, but that's what it became. So around the time that I hit 30,000 words, I decided to tell a few people, and they were surprised, but not totally surprised, because I hadn't been writing for a long time musically, so it was bound to start coming out somewhere else. And it took me about 3 months to finish the first draft of the book, which now has become The Golden Promise. And that in and of itself was so exciting. It was the kind of excitement that I hadn't felt in a very long time for something that I had created. So then I decided, that I was going to go ahead and figure out how to get this book published. And I researched independent publishing and traditional publishing, and I decided that traditional publishing was the route at the time that I wanted to go. So I began figuring out how to do that and what that looked like. And that's when I realized that I was going to need to start revising my initial, what was now a manuscript, because I had made it to, at that point it was about 95,000 words. And I hired an editor, a freelance editor, to look over my submission package because I wasn't getting a lot of feedback. And she went over it with a fine-tooth comb. And if you want to know more about what a literary submission package looks like for querying, I'm happy to do another video on that. But this video is my author origin story, so we're gonna stick to the path. And then after she provided me feedback, I rewrote, and I pretty much overhauled the entire book. And then it clocked in at around 100,000 words. So give or take 5,000 had been added, and I felt like it was a lot stronger. So I started querying again, and I started getting feedback, specifically rejections, which they weren't horrible. Everyone has been really nice about it so far. And I know that this is part of the process, which doesn't mean that it's not a little disheartening at times. But I do believe in the book that I've written, so much so that I am about to start the second book because I have a strong feeling this is a series. So, to catch you up to speed to where I am now, I have written the book, I have revised the book, and I'm back in the trenches querying, which is a fun and interesting process. And when you compare it to what the music industry is like, it's similar and different in a lot of ways, but I find this to be a more interesting process. And maybe that's because it's new to me, where music had been pretty much my life for more than a decade, really. And so this is something new and interesting, and I'm really enjoying it. And if you want to see more about my writing process or how the book came to be in terms of actually writing it, I do short form content about it over on TikTok, and I share some tips there as well. But I'm hoping that YouTube can be a place where I can share more in depth about what it's really like to write a book and query and find a literary agent and then find a publisher, and all of that is the process that I'm in right now. So now you're up to speed. You know what I've been doing creatively for the past few years, and I'm pretty set that this is the path that I'm going to continue on because I'm having so much fun doing it, and I finally get to express my creativity in a way that feels very fulfilling, because songwriting is extremely commercial if you're going for commercial success, and it's short form. You have to pack a lot into roughly 3 minutes if you ever want it to be on the radio. So writing books is long form content, and it's very interesting and challenging in a new way. So thank you if you watched this entire video. You can definitely expect more videos like this here, where I can just share with you in a more open way that doesn't have to be condensed down into little bite-sized pieces. So thanks for watching, and expect another video along the lines of what it's like to be an author soon.